So I may have misinterpreted the brief somewhat, because I haven't done any prep. I figured, how could I be an expert in something that I've even kind of looked at? So once, I can't even adjust this. Once the invitation had been offered and kindly accepted, I've gone out of my way to fail to study for anything as much as I possibly can in advance of today. And actually that's been quite difficult because ideas have occurred to me and I've just sought to forget about them. And I arrived here not knowing what I was going to talk to you about. And I had a couple of ideas along the way as I saw other things. And I've abandoned those as well. So I've had an idea, and I'm curious to know what I might have in common with some of you, and I'm going to seek to inquire about that by laying out some of the stuff that's in my bag on the floor. I'm going to number it in my head, and then somebody's going to call out a number. I'll tell you a little story about the item, and then we'll see if it connects any of us in any way. But I just thought of that as I got up. So anyway, what's
the little metal thing?
Well, I'm not. You'll find out if you pick the right number. I think I have discovered that the point of calculus is to make me look stupid and perhaps to make a fool of us. Right. So I had another idea about singing you a song, and I haven't got a song because I haven't written a song, but it could go something like this. I could stand in front of you and paint a picture. I could talk about my failing mental health, but I'm afraid I know too much about both of these things, in which case, let's do something else. So, pick a number. 1, 2, 4. Okay. This is, I paint pictures, and I hardly ever go anywhere without some. I've been packing and unpacking this envelope over a period of days. I've been trying to do some of it while I've been quite heavily inebriated so that I didn't know what was in the envelope in its entirety. Okay? So here we have an image of a sort of angelic creature, maybe holding up the world. Does anybody here ever feel like they have the weight of the whole world on their shoulders? Yes? I can't see you, so I'm going to have to assume you either have to shout yes or put your hand up and I'll pretend you did. This is a painting of a spray of lavender, which has a lovely scent to it, and it reminds me of two things, really. I live in a place called Carshalton. Has anybody ever heard of Carshalton? Yes. Yeah. And it's where Yardley used to grow all their lavender, and it was a worldwide lavender hub, if there ever was such a thing. It isn't now, but there is actually an organic lavender farm down the road, and it smells lovely, and so our area is kind of well known for it. And in fact, it's becoming better known for it again as the plant is reinvigorated. I'm also mindful of lavender because I once cycled a bicycle up to the top of a mountain in France called Mont Ventoux. Has anybody heard of Mont Ventoux? Yes. It's a big mountain. It killed Tommy Simpson, the British cyclist. He expired 1,500 metres before the summit, thanks to a cocktail of alcohol and amphetamines. He's a real flawed genius, a hero. Most of my heroes are dead and broken, or both, and alive and broken. But anyway, but all around Provence, where Ventoux is covered in lavender. So it's a beautiful smell. Does anybody here else like the smell of lavender? Yeah, this is great, isn't it? Okay, one more of these. Okay, here's one. I didn't know this was in here. This is a little sketch of a tree. It's called Dining Alone, and I painted it in a restaurant in Newcastle when I was working up there, and I was up there on my own. And I took my paint box, which coincidentally is in the bag, and I drew me as this sort of tree in the restaurant, and there are these sort of spectral shapes around it, which are the other diners and the sort of staff ghosting about the place. And again, it has a sort of lavender colour, but the reason it's these colours is that was the colours that the restaurant was decorated in. I've forgotten the name of it, but it was very tasty food. Anyway, that's enough of that. So we're now starting to find a few things that I've got in common with some of you, which is great. Would someone else like to pick another number? 2. That metal thing. This is my wedding ring. I'll put it on now because I have a tendency to take it off and forget where I've left it. You can imagine how well that goes down with Carol. Yeah, she bought this for me when we got married, funnily enough. I've sort of temporarily lost it a few times, but I still have it with me. Is anybody else here married? Yeah. Okay, cool. If you like it, it's cool. If you don't, then sorry. It's not for everyone. What else can I tell you about this ring? Well, it's that sort of symbol that Carol and I exchanged. I was a bit tight, so actually what I exchanged with Carol was a ring that belonged to one of her grandparents that she gave to me to give back to her. I think I won in that respect. Anyway, and we've been married for 25 years last year. Has anybody else here been married for 25 years or longer? Yeah, a couple of quiet voices. Cool, all right. Not much else to tell you about that, but again, something that we have in common. I don't know. I mean, it comes off, as you can see. No. How? Although, thanks. God, I can really feel myself blushing. Anyway, right, there's 5 things left. 5. Oh, sorry, I heard a 3, then a 5. Okay, I'm going to go to 3 first, and then I'll do 5. I bought this jacket years ago. It's made by a company called Diesel, and it's mildly insignificant. It's a pretty dull colour and all that kind of thing. But it took on a very special meaning for me a few years ago when I took part in something called the Merge Festival, which was in Bankside. And I basically participated in a project called Never Records. That's the logo of Never Records. Does anybody here ever heard of a band called the Ramones? Yeah? Do we like them? Yeah, no, some, okay. Has anybody here ever heard of a guy called Arturo Vega? No. Okay, you may not be familiar with him, but you will be familiar with his work if you know the Ramones, because he designed that iconic baseball bat American Eagle logo. In fact, he acted as their sort of artistic director and muse for a number of years. And he put this on my jacket. For me as part of Never Records. So Never Records was this really weird thing where basically we were invited to turn up at this pop-up recording studio run by a New York-based artist called Ted Reederer and record a song. And I chose a song that myself and my friend Neil Usher co-wrote called Human Resource, and it's a kind of sort of weird dystopian vision of how we're just commoditizing everybody at work. And I recorded it, and basically they cut the thing straight on to 2 vinyls in the moment as you're playing. And then at the end, one of the vinyls goes into the pop-up shop, and you get to keep the other one. You get to decorate the covers and all that kind of thing. Anyway, they brought Ted Reederer, and knew Arturo Vega, and he brought him over as part of the festival. So the festival was a pop-up record shop, and we all had our records in there, and you could take them up to the desk, and they'd play them for you. And the wall was covered in vinyl and photographs of us all in the studio. And then we got to go to this special sort of printing thing by Arturo Vega. And let's say he printed this. I have the very first screen print test, which they did on a sheet of newspaper at home. And the reason why it sort of brought a tear to my throat, or a lump to my throat when I talked about it, is he very sadly died shortly after this was made. And I've kept this jacket in my cupboard for years, not wanting to do anything with it. And I've realised as I get older that things aren't made to be kept in cupboards. So I wear this much more often now, and I love it. And I hope it doesn't get sort of rained on and ruined, but if it does, I kind of think he would have wanted it that way. And I think I'm done. Thank you very much.